Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online Series 2 VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out the team that finished first in the most recent rank season. This team not only finished first at the end of the rank season, it actually also finished third and fourth, and it was a joint collaboration by two of the top Japanese players, Rinya, who was known for creating Rinya Sun, the most popular team in VGC 2022, as well as Suica, who is one of the top Japanese players. And so it's a hyper offense team that is just really, really powerful. You're using some of the strongest attackers in the game, like Great Tusk, and you also have Loaded Dice Brute Bonnet, as well as Assault Vest Ground Tera Baxcalibur, both which I think are really, really neat. And so, as always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below. And thanks so much, as always, for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's get into the breakdown. First of all, a huge thank you to Suica and Rinya for making this team public. The rental code is on the top right of the screen if you want to try it out yourself, and this is Suica's Twitter post, and you can see that he ended up finishing ranked number 1 at the end of the season. So I've linked Suica and Rinya's Twitters down in the description below. There's also a team report for this team written in Japanese if you want to check it out, so I've also linked that down in the description below. But it is really wild that Suica was able to finish first and third on the ladder, and then Rinya was right behind it fourth as well, right? And so clearly shows the consistency of this team, especially in best of 1. I think the thing about this team is that it doesn't really have that many crazy surprises, so it would perform pretty well in an open team sheet environment as well, but overall it's just got so much raw power and you're using just some of the strongest Pokemon in the game. And so yeah, I think teams like this are easier to kind of learn the game with because you just have a lot of tools at your disposal. And so let's actually break down the team a little bit. So when covering this team, the first couple of things that I want to highlight are, yes, this team is fairly straightforward and uses, of course, a lot of the strongest Pokemon in the format, and 2, it is just really consistent. Now, the reason I want to highlight that is because on this channel, I feature all kinds of different teams, and recently I've used teams that feature Pokemon like Grumpig or Mischievous, for example. However, I think a team like this is really valuable for those that are looking to just get some experience in VGC and want to get acclimated with the format because there's just so much pure power and strength to work with. When you're using more wacky Pokemon like Mischievous or Grumpig, it requires more specific win conditions, for example, and for newer players, it can be a little bit difficult to identify what those win conditions are. So if you're looking for a team that just has a lot of raw power and strength, I would certainly recommend this one. So let's break things down a little bit more in depth. First Pokemon to highlight is the Talonflame on this team. This Talonflame has enough speed investment to outspeed max speed Lycanroc, as well as things like Mousehold and Screamtail, which is a nice benchmark. You actually have a fair amount of bulk as well, and the rest is dumped into attack investment. You've got safety goggles here, which is really nice because you can ignore Rage Powders from Amoonguss and Brute Bonnet and be able to burn physical attackers with Will-O-Wisp, and you've also got the Ghost Tera here to avoid potential fake outs, for example. And so, general point of Talonflame is to set up Tailwind, deal some decent damage with Brave Bird, and burn things, right? And so this team is already pretty fast-paced, and with Tailwind you can get even faster. The Tailwind synergizes really nicely with Flutter Mane here. The Flutter Mane, as you'll know, isn't max speed. It's actually fairly bulky with a lot of HP investment. A lot of Choice Specs Flutter Manes have invested in HP recently, so this isn't a major surprise, but you've got a fair amount of speed investment here, and the idea is that with Tailwind, Flutter Mane then can just pretty much outpace everything. Other Pokemon that take advantage of the Tailwind, pretty much the entire team, actually. Brute Bonnet, as you'll note here, is actually really speedy. It's got 228 speed EVs, right? And so you can outpace a lot of Pokemon, especially under Tailwind, which is really nice, especially since I think most people don't expect Brute Bonnet generally to be speedy, right? And so Brute Bonnet here is valuable as it can deal a ton of damage with that Bullet Seed. Palafin has been a really strong Pokemon in the format, and Brute Bonnet here can wall the Palafin if it's not running close combat, and you can retaliate back with Bullet Seed, which is really nice, especially since a fair amount of Palafins will run that Water Tera type, right? And so, yeah, Talonflame synergizes honestly with all of the Pokemon here on this team, but I think it's especially strong with Baxcalibur and Great Tusk. The Baxcalibur here is actually a Ground Tera variant with Earthquake, and so one of the cool things you can do with this team is just lead Talonflame, Baxcalibur, Tailwind, Ground Tera, and Earthquake immediately. I think people aren't that experienced in fighting against Ground Tera Baxcalibur specifically. A lot of the Baxcaliburs that we've seen will run like a defensive Tera to kind of get around the weaknesses to like make it rain from Golden Go, for example. Of course, Gavin Michaels won the Oceania International Championships with Baxcalibur. That was a, kind of attack boosting variant. But here, Assault Vest plus Earthquake is honestly a really nice combo, and it does so much more damage than people generally expect. Also, we're in a format that just has a lot of Pokemon are relatively weak to ground type attacks, and there aren't that many kind of flying type Pokemon that people are utilizing right now, so ground coverage in general is really valuable. So Talonflame Baxcalibur really solidly, Talonflame Great Tusk also solid. The one thing to call out about Great Tusk here is that it doesn't have Earthquake, and instead it actually has Ice Spinner. Part of the reason for that is because Ice Spinner is valuable. 1, against NDD plus Armarouge, getting rid of Psychic Terrain is really valuable. 2, Ice Spinner allows you to hit flying type Pokemon that you otherwise wouldn't really have great coverage against. Things like, for example, flying Tera Pokemon, especially things like Tyranitar or Roaring Moon, for example. And so Ice Spinner kind of doubles down as good offense while also being able to get rid of terrain. Earthquake would be valuable, right? But with this team, like, you don't really have that many protects on your strong attackers like Baxcalibur or Flutter Mane, so you don't really want to be Earthquaking next to those. And, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, personal decision. You definitely could fit Earthquake onto it, because then it opens up a Talonflame Great Tusk lead. You can just Tailwind, Ground Terra, Earthquake. But I think with this team, just like Headlong Rush is so powerful anyway, and Ice Spinner gives you some unique coverage that otherwise you might struggle against certain Pokemon in matchups. And so, yeah. Finally, you've got Iron Bundle here. This is kind of a standard booster energy set. The main thing to call out here is that you have a little bit of a special defense bulk to work with as well, which is nice. But the idea is that you just have max speed with the booster energy. This Pokemon is so fast, and the point of it is mainly for Icy Wind speed control, as well as dealing pretty good damage with Freeze Dry and Hydro Pump. Iron Bundle specifically synergizes really nicely with like Flutter Mane and Great Tusk as leads, because these Pokemon are already pretty speedy, right? And with Icy Wind and with Bundle getting that Cork Drive activation from booster energy, you can lower the speeds of like opposing Flutter Manes and opposing Iron Bundles, for example, allow these Pokemon to outpace them and simply just get a knockout. So there is just so much pure offense to work with this team. A lot of different ways that you can utilize it as well, but generally it's just kind of aiming for, okay, what types are my opponents weak to, and how can I basically take advantage of that? And with the Teras here, you know, it's kind of, you want to be careful about your Teras. Like Talonflame and Bundle, you essentially want to Ghost Tera if you think that one turn will allow you to get like a huge advantage, right? So saying, okay, avoiding a fake out means I get Tailwind and pick up knockouts. That can be really valuable, but otherwise I think like the offensive Teras with Baxcalibur here, Ground Earthquake really strong, or the Great Tusk Ground Headlong Rush also really powerful. Bonnet Fire Tera is mainly kind of defensive here, and then Flutter Mane kind of is also defensive. And so you've got a mix between the defense and the offense Teras. It's really kind of just figuring out what best fits against your opponent's team. So yeah, overall a lot of just pure raw strength with this team. So let's quickly highlight some weaknesses. So in terms of weaknesses, I think the first thing to call out is that due to the nature of how hyper-offensive this team is and how fast this is, Trick Room can be pretty scary, right? And so a well-played and conserved Trick Room team can give this team a lot of trouble. Now, generally against Trick Room, the matchup is kind of figuring out how to play defensively with Brute Bonnet and getting a couple spores off, but things that can obviously give Brute Bonnet trouble include safety goggles as well as grass Teras as well. So if you're a Trick Room team that also has good anti-sleep measures, it can be pretty difficult for this team to actually get going because you don't have like a definitive way to deny Trick Room. So Trick Room in itself can be fairly challenging. I think one other thing to call out is that this team itself actually has a fair amount of Pokemon that are weak to like opposing Great Tusks, for example, right? Like you've got super effective damage with close combat into Brute Bonnet, and like you don't have Focus Sash on the Bundle or the Flutter Mane, and so they can go down fairly quickly as well. Flutter Mane in particular, the Tera doesn't really help it from surviving something like a Headlong Rush, for example, right? In fact, you actually make yourself weaker into it as well. So that's one thing to call out as well. And due to the nature of how fast-paced and hyper-offensive this team is, it often, if you're like missing on knockouts, that can be really problematic because you don't have that much bulk to work with, so your opponent can retaliate back and try to knock you out in return. So you'll want to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I think out of the teams that I faced against, Trick Room's been pretty scary. Intimidates obviously can be a little bit tricky with the Brute Bonnet, the Baxcalibur, and the Great Tusk as well, against that trio in particular. And so those are just a couple of things that I've run into so far. I think with Talonflame as well, like opposing teams that are really fast can be scary, especially if they have like their own booster bundle as well as like a faster Choice Specs Flutter Mane, because then it puts you in kind of a tricky position where it's like you want to consider whether or not to go for a Tera with Flutter Mane, and then whether or not you want to play against like the Icy Wind Speed Wars, for example, or Speed Ties. That's one other thing to watch out for as well. And then of course you can take advantage of the lack of protect on the Flutter Mane as well as the Baxcalibur. So yeah. Okay, we've got King Gambit, Sableye, Dragonite, Brute Bonnet, Palafin, and Iron Valiant. So Sableye can Will-O-Wisp into the Tusk, which is pretty scary. I honestly think Fire Tera Brute Bonnet immediately is kind of interesting here. Talonflame with safety goggles and Will-O-Wisp is pretty good here because their team is very physical. It's almost actually pretty much entirely physical. I feel like Burn is really good here. Flutter Mane Dazzling is really strong, but I think we want to maybe try to conserve this for later on in the battle. Because if I bring it early, there's the pressure of, you know, King Gambit. Sableye could even have Shadow Sneak. So I might want to conserve this in the back. Assault is not valuable as an item for us here. I don't think Bundle's really that good. I mean, Freeze Dry is pretty solid until the top 3 Pokemon. But it's not terrible. I kind of like Talonflame and Brute Bonnet here with Great Tusk and Flutter Mane in the back. Yeah, I think Baxcalibur could be okay in this one. We just don't get that much value out of Assault Vest as an item. It's not bad, though, I guess. I think another lead totally could have been Talonflame plus Baxcalibur. We certainly had options here. So, what's my goal? We're going to go Sableye Palafin. I honestly really want to just go Ghost Tera with Talonflame and then Will-O-Wisp onto Palafin turn 1. Because, like, I think here they might consider, like, Fake Out or even just, like, Water Tera Jump Punch, for example. But if I burn Palafin, it's pretty sweet. I also could just go for Protect here into Spore, right? They can't taunt me, so they'd have to click Fake Out onto this. I don't know if I actually want to commit my Tera like that immediately. Okay. I think I'm down to Protect and Spore here. Palafin hard switches, makes sense. Into Dragonite, sure. Curious if that is a Lumberry. Lum Dragonite's decently common right now. Rain Dance! That's cool. Manual Rain to set up Palafin. I like that. Interesting. Okay, well now it's pretty free to click Tailwind. I could see it being Flying Tera Dragonite and then they Tera Blast us. Tailwind Spore is decently safe. I'm worried about Lumberry, but if you have Lumberry, then... and you okay, well they didn't Tera, so it's fine. What are they going to go for, is my question. Sableye takes a turn of sleep. We're going to Spore them. Okay. Lum? No Lum. Wow, okay. I'll take that. I will certainly take that. Got Tusk and Flutter in the back. I have to be very careful about the Palafin, I think. Especially with that Rain Dance. That Rain Dance is really cool. I'm down to Brave Bird, Sableye, and Bullet Seeder right now. Let's try to get that out of the way. Nice, really good damage. Bullet Seed should definitely finish that off. Sableye stays asleep. Cool. I don't know if I needed to double up onto it, but yeah, Sableye's taking these Bullet Seeds decently well. So I was thinking if I only got 4 hits, I wouldn't KO it, and I just want to like minimize the quick wake-ups, right? So Brute Bonnet is putting in a ton of work for me right now, but I will say I would have preferred to have either Bundle or Baxcalibur in the back right now because I'm feeling a little bit nervous about the matchup in a Palafin. But we've gotten a little bit lucky with Sleep Turn so far, with neither Pokemon waking up immediately. And this is why, like, so many teams right now carry Safety Goggles or Golden Go or Taunt, because Amoonguss and Brute Bonnet are just obviously, otherwise can be really difficult to deal with. So, yeah, I was very worried about a Lumberry on the Dragonite here, or even a Safety Goggles on Sableye, but the lack of both means we're in a better spot. So it's interesting because, yeah, I was going to say, if you bring out Palafin, you're actually in a pretty awkward position. Iron Valiant comes out. With that... Ooh, Booster Energy. Attack or Speed? Speed. Okay. 2 turns of Tailwind. I mean, I could just go for Brave Bird onto Iron Valiant and Sucker Punch, but they could Tera, so I think I'd prefer to go for Will-O-Wisp onto Valiant and then Protect here. It could be Fire Tera. That would actually be very interesting. The other thing is my opponent is slowly losing their Rain. but it's going to be Fairy. Okay, cool. I think Fire, Tera, Brute, Bonnet could make some sense for me, but it's really risky in the sense that then my entire team kind of falls to Palafin, right? Like, it does neutral, it's super effective to everything, including Brute Bonnet. Nice. Will-O-Wisp doesn't miss. Cool. This should put us in a really favorable position. The status conditions are just so overwhelming right now into my opponent's side. Oh, it's Special Valiant, though. I was thinking about that in team preview, because otherwise their team is so physical. And Dragonite takes a 3-turn sleep. Ah, man, Moonblast actually makes this so interesting. Because, like, I actually really do want to Tera Brute Bonnet now. Huh. Like, the truth is, I think it's better to conserve my Tera for Tusk. So maybe... Wow, okay, that actually just changes this so much. Protect. Switching to Flutter Mane. We'll see how much I take from Moonblast from Valiant. Because I'm thinking I can do this, and then the next turn go, like, Steel Tera, Tailwind. I'm also considering conserving Ground Tera for the Palafin. There's Moonblast, boosted by Fairy Tera. That's so cool. Oh, eat up a crit. And a special attack drop. It's a little less than ideal. Aqua Tail Dragonite. Whoa. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna click Tailwind again right now. I cannot protect with Flutter Mane, and I ate up that special attack drop. Wow, it was Damp Rock Sableye as well. Talk about the surprises. Very cool. I think I'm just going to Tailwind and Moonblast here. But I don't have priority on the Tailwind anymore. Okay, it's Shadow Sneak here. Oh! I end up surviving with 2 HP. That burn plus the bulk we have is huge. Okay, that was pretty unexpected. I'll take it. But I'm at -1 special attack, so we don't do as much to Dragonite. But I think I'm pretty well positioned now, right? Because I can bring out Great Tusk. And I can go Ground Tera Tusk, Headlong Rush into Valiant, and then just Moonblast into Dragonite. I wonder if that's Choice Band Dragonite. It doesn't look like Assault Vest or Multi-Skill. Tera, Headlong Rush into you. Moonblast into you. Valiant could obviously finish off us. But they've already Terra'd, so Brute Bonnet is going to win pretty hard in the end game against the Palafin. Right? Just double check the board state. 2 turns of Rain, so I could double protect to stall out Rain. I do have Ice Spinner here as well. But I think getting rid of Valiant's really important, because otherwise Brute Bonnet is threatened. So yeah, it's Tera, Headlong Rush, and just Moonblast here. Really interesting tricks from my opponent's end. Damp Rock Sableye with Will-O-Wisp, Aqua Tail Dragonite, and Fairy Tera mixed Iron Valiant. It's really cool. I don't mind my position too much right now. Yep, so they go for Sneak. You kind of have to target the Flutter Mane, but this is where the bulk in Flutter Mane really ends up being huge, right? Because we actually survive. So Flutter faints, but that's fine. I'm going to trade. This is going to be a really close finish. I actually think Ice Spinner was... No, if I went Ice Spinner, then Palafin can come out. They can double up. But then I could have just protected. I don't know, though. Like, Brute Bonnet, I think, is better position right now. Still think it might be Choice Band on the Dragonite as well. They go for another Aqua Tail, which makes me further think that's the case. I mean, one of my other questions is, does the Dragonite have any flying type attacks? But I think I have to be a little bit careful right now, because of course I could double protect to stall out the rain. but is that even worth it, right? I think here, because I have Ice Spinner, I'm happy clicking Ice Spinner into Dragonite and Bullet Seed into Palafin. If Palafin goes for Jet Punch, you KO the Tusk, but then I KO you. And what I want to cover for is Palafin protecting here. If Palafin protects and I KO Dragonite, it should just be a win, because then I can just go for Headlong Rush and Spore. You can't knock out both Pokemon. I don't think Palafin can knock out Bonnet here anyway. So, yeah, there's the Protect. It could be Extreme Speed, though, if they actually have that on Dragonite and they're not Choice Banded like I thought they were. But, yep, no Extreme Speed. And the surprise of Ice Spinner here is really nice. That's one of the things about Great Tusk. I think most people expect Earthquake, Headlong Rush, Close Combat, Protect. And so having Ice Spinner gives you unique coverage into flying types, which otherwise really wall Great Tusk. Now it's a 2v1. Rain was stalled out. And yeah, I mean, this game was over the next turn, because Headlong Rush plus the Bullet Seed or Spore essentially wins us the game. So, yeah. Anyway, I think the main thing about that game was my opponent didn't have a good answer to Brute Bonnet in the early game. Their best answer was that Iron Valiant, so essentially I saw Brute Bonnet as the win condition, and I was like, okay, as soon as we saw the Fairy Tera, I wanted to make sure I conserved it. We were able to eliminate the one thing that really threatened the Brute Bonnet, and Brute Bonnet was able to just like put two things to sleep, put on a lot of offensive pressure as well with Bullet Seed, which was very, very nice. So I think one decision I could have made was actually bringing Baxcalibur over Flutter Mane. Bax would have been really good into Dragonite. It would have been... I mean, it depends, right? Like, if Dragonite has a strong Dragon-type attack, it's a little bit scary. But Bax also would have been really amazing into Palafin, because I think the end game against Palafin could have been a little bit scary, because I didn't bring either of probably the best Palafin answers in Baxcalibur or Iron Bundle. But yeah, I think that game showcases how offensive Brute Bonnet can be really interesting, because one, I had pressure with Spore, but two, I actually had pressure with Bullet Seed as well, which is really nice. Okay, what do we got here? Indeedee, Armarouge, Hands, Amoonguss, Flutter Mane, and Roaring Moon. Feels relatively standard, just some of the strongest Pokemon in the meta right now. Against Indeedee, Armarouge, I have to say I'm somewhat intrigued by Baxcalibur. Brute Bonnet's also interesting because I could Fire Tera Spore, but Sucker Punch doesn't really work with Psychic Terrain. What is the Trick Room matchup here? I could totally lead Great Tusk. Ice Spinner is also really interesting to get rid of Psychic Terrain here. Getting rid of Terrain is honestly kind of a big deal in my opinion. Like, I'm actually thinking Tusk, Flutter, Brute Bonnet, Baxcalibur. I think Bundle's really bad here, given the amount of strong special attackers they have. The argument to bring Bundle is if we think they're going to go with the fast mode of Roaring Moon plus the Flutter Mane. But if they don't go with that, then I think it has very little value. And I don't really think I need Tailwind, nor is Will-O-Wisp that good. In a best of 3, I think both of these Pokemon are worth considering. But in a best of 1, I'm not sure it's that consistent. One argument for Talonflame is that it does have safety goggles and they have Amoonguss, but I'd rather just go with what I think are the strongest mons right now. So, part of the idea is if they lead Indeedee, Armarouge, turn 1 I can go for Ice Spinner, which is pretty cool. Man, I could even go for like Ice Spinner plus Moonblast double up onto Armarouge. But in a closed Team Machine environment, Indeedee, Armarouge is just always hard to fight because like, you don't know if either Pokemon have Protect, you don't know which one is going to want to Trick Room on turn 1. They do lead it at least though. So like, with this, normally the Armarouge just goes for a Tera immediately because you have to be worried about, Tusk going for Ground Tera EQ. The question is what they do with the Tusk afterwards. Or sorry, with Armarouge afterwards. One play could be Follow Me, Grass Tera, Trick Room. Another could be Armarouge protects Indeedee Trick Rooms. Another could be Follow Me, Expanding Force. It's tough. It honestly is really tough here. Because either Pokemon can set up Trick Room. I don't think I want to commit my Tera. And Dazzling Gleam in general is pretty safe. I really want to Specs Dazzling Ice Spinner Armarouge here. Expecting Grass Tera. We're going to see a Tera, but this totally could just be Follow Me with Indeedee. I think if you're my opponent, though, in a closed team sheet environment, you also have to be a little bit afraid of me having Imprisoned Trick Room on Flutter Mane, so I wonder if they just try to attack offensively. Nice! They don't protect with Armor Rouge. Okay, so we should get the knockout here. Yes. No! It didn't KO? Wow. That is wild to me. But they clicked Expanding Force out of fear of Imprisoned Trick Room. Okay. I'll take it. That works. I'm actually shocked it survived that, but I guess Ice Spinner's just not that strong. They're probably very defensive. Probably just max HP investment, but I think we're still very well positioned. I'm happy to just Dazzling Gleam here and Headlong Rush now. Is Headlong Rush the most optimal play here? They don't have a single resistance to it. Okay. Well, that was a roller coaster of emotions. I could have gone Moonblast to be a little bit safer on the Armor Rouge. I really did think Ice Spinner and Dazzle would get the knockout, though, so that's a pretty good benchmark if you're using this team. Know that it's not a guaranteed KO on Armor Rouge. But now we should just get a double knockout. Best of one is so dicey, right? Because like both of us are like, I was worried about, I don't know which Pokemon's going to want a Trick Room. They were probably worried about Imprison plus Trick Room because that's a tech that a lot of people are using for best of one ladder. Things could have been a lot worse if they actually clicked Trick Room on turn 1 with either Pokemon. So we got fairly lucky they didn't. I think this outcome was pretty much the best case, other than me potentially have gotten a knockout on Armor Rouge on turn 1. But I got their Tera out already. Trick Room is not up. Things are looking pretty good. I wonder if it's Booster Energy on the moon here, though. If it's not Booster Energy, Flutter Mane just wins this immediately. But it needs to be Booster and Speed. Is it Speed? Attack. Yeah, I don't think you beat Flutter Mane here because I can just Specs Dazzling and Headlong Rush. It's interesting to bring Roaring Moon as well. It makes sense because I think like the idea is if you set up Trick Room with Entity and Armor Rouge, you can use your Trick Room mode. Oh, Iron Hands is tech. That's cute. Oh, Roaring Moon's actually... We are bulkier Flutter Mane, so even with them being plus attack... Yeah, I guess I should have expected that. I mainly wasn't expecting Detect on the Iron Hands because that's such a rare move. So in my head, I thought the game was won in the sense that if it doesn't have Detect, if we outspeed or I KO there, it's just game over. I think it's still fine, honestly, but I guess the game is a little bit more interesting now. I think I can just go into Baxcalibur now. Baxcalibur, Ground Tera. And this game is actually definitely not over, right? Because they can now thread in Acrobatics onto Tusk, but they could also Protect. I'm actually a little bit worried about clicking Glaive Rush. Like, I would expect Ice Cold Crash to KO, so I'm just afraid of missing. But I think Ice Cold Crash here into Headlong Rush here is pretty safe. If they protect Roaring Moon, Headlong Rush should just KO the Iron Hands. Actually, I'm not sure. Like, Detect in itself is already kind of a surprise. So I'm curious about the Iron Hands investment. And I'm actually not sure we get the knockout either. But I didn't want to end up clicking Glaive Rush and then having their like close combat just KO me. But they just end up clicking Acrobatics. Okay. That's a fine trade. Ends up critting us. But I don't think that really makes a difference. Steel Tera Flutter Mane might have been the solution, by the way. But we don't miss Ice Cold Crash. Great. And that one-shot's Roaring Moon. Cool. So now it's a 2v1. I don't think they should KO us here with Iron Hands. It's just Drain Punch as well. Cool. Beautiful. Let's bring up Bonnet now. You've already Terra'd. I guess it could be Safety Goggles, theoretically, on the hands. Honestly, Earthquake into Protect is pretty strong here. I wouldn't expect a close combat to KO either. So I'm pretty happy with this. They actually just ended up forfeiting. I think the game was like theoretically winnable. If they ended up just... I don't know if it was actually correct for me to Protect there, but I essentially didn't want them to like end up Drain Punching into the Brute Bonnet. And I wanted to, and then like heal back a lot. Actually, if they Drain Punch, it's fine, right? Because like Earthquake does so much. I think like Earthquake and Bullet Seed there is actually the correct play. Because I think what I could lose to is Iron Hands being faster than Brute Bonnet. Like if they're super speedy, close combat crits Baxcalibur, and then they just one-shot Brute Bonnet the next turn. So I actually think my play could have been a little bit more optimal there. Because I'm not sure how you beat Earthquake plus Bullet Seed, right? Because like Earthquake would do a ton of damage, and even if you Drain Punch or like heal back against Brute Bonnet, then my Earthquake becomes single target against you, right? And then if you end up close combating into Baxcalibur, then the Bullet Seed ends up doing more onto the hands. So I actually think Earthquake Bullet Seed was the right play there. Because Earthquake Ground Tera should do a ton of damage into Iron Hands. But yeah. Either way, I think that game, we just had a really good early lead. I think my opponent, yeah, probably respected Imprison Trick Room too much. And a result, we got, we were able to punish them. Because like, if Armor Rouge has Protect there and Entity just clicks Trick Room, it's actually a disaster for me on turn 1. One play I was considering, of course, is like Ground Tera Tusk and then just like double up onto Entity for a KO. But yeah, I have to say it's still scary playing against Entity Armor Rouge, but at least with Ice Spinner, we can get rid of Psychic Terrain, reducing their damage output pretty significantly. All right, we've got Dondozo here. Ooh, Dondozo in best of 1 without knowing the Tera is pretty interesting. But if you're Dragon Tera, Baxcalibur solid. If you are Steel Tera, Tusk is solid. We can burn with Talonflame. Freeze Dry Icy Wind from Brute Bonnet is also really good. Sorry, Brute Bonnet, Iron Bundle. This feels like a bundle Flutter Mane lead to me. I can just Icy Wind into damage immediately. They do have a couple special attackers. Bax is not bad here. I do want to bring Brute Bonnet because I think Spore into Dondozo is solid, though. Tusk? I think having Sash alone with Tusk is a really big deal, but Excalibur has a lot to gain against the bottom 4 Pokemon on my opponent's team. I could bring Talonflame as well. I just don't actually think it's that valuable. I guess my problem is if they lead with Bonnet, or sorry, not Bonnet, Flutter plus their... but I would probably just Tera Steel to get around that. Yeah. Alright. I think I'm going to go with Baxcalibur here. I think the thing about Baxcalibur is that it actually gives me a defensive switch in, which is kind of nice, but... part of the tricky thing about Dondozo here is I don't know the set, right? So if it's like Chesto Rest, for example, in best of 1, that would make things a little bit harder for me because then Brute Bonnet's Spore is a little bit less valuable. Baxcalibur covers for a bunch of Teras that, Dondozo generally aims for. It is a mirror lead. Okay. But I have the shiny Iron Bundle, so my team looks cooler. I love Shiny Bundle. I think it's one of the coolest shinies. We're both booster energy. Oh, man. This is going to be ugly. I guess the thing is, even if they Icy Wind me, though, I'll still be able to get my Icy Wind off as well. I think the main debate is, do I Tera immediately? What a tricky spot to be in. Because I'm worried about them being Specs Flutter as well. I went for Icy Wind Specs Dazzling, but maybe I should have had a little bit more conviction and just hard targeted one of the slots, because the problem is if Bundle survives here, right? Yeah, so they're Flutter Teras. Normal! I guess that's not, like, super crazy, because, yeah, it means you're completely immune to Shadow Ball. So I think normal Tera is probably a little bit better in a closed Team Sheet environment, because in an open Team Sheet environment, if I saw that, I would just almost never click Shadow Ball. Whereas, like, in an closed Team Sheet environment, like, yeah, it makes all the difference, because it means, like, instead of getting KO'd, you just survive, right? So I do get the Icy Wind off first. They're probably going to retaliate back with an Icy Wind of their own, though. Yeah, I think Specs Moonblast was probably the better call here into the bundle. They actually just opt for freeze dry. Oh, okay. That actually does mean I get my Specs Gleam off first. And they Shadow Ball. That's actually a really ideal outcome in my opinion, because they didn't get any speed control here. Special defense drop, kind of scary, but it's fine. Because like now I can just totally freeze dry into you and Dazzling Gleam. And I have the speed advantage. Yeah, so much about playing against opposing teams that have this kind of speed control is just aiming to be one step ahead, essentially. Okay, double KO. Nice. Now what? I have really good speed control with continuous Icy Winds. Is it Dondozo Tatsu? That would make sense. It is. Okay, so the downside is I've committed my Tera. The upside is I can Icy Wind on Dozo or just straight up freeze dry it. Freeze dry is okay damage. We should expect Earthquake from Dondozo right now, that's for sure. I'm unsure how fast Dondozo is going to be relative to us, but I think with Bullet Seed, I think Brute Bonnet in general in the back should be really good into it. I don't think I switch into Bonnet. I think I just kind of conserve it right now. How fast is Brute Bonnet here? 104. The debate is whether or not I want to like freeze dry or Icy Wind. I think here I'm content to protect and Dazzling, sacrifice Flutter Mane and get the free switch into Brute Bonnet, and then I can just click Spore. But like I said, this is where, like whether or not I want to click Spore, or do I want to just go for Bullet Seed? They're still slower than Flutter. Yep. It's okay damage, honestly. And it's just Earthquake. Yeah, so Baxcalibur should beat the Tatsugiri because of Assault Vest. Okay. I just, without knowing Dondozo's speed investment or item here, things are a little bit interesting. But if I see a oh, okay, it's leftovers, beautiful. So Spore is good then. They could be Substitute here, but if they Substitute, it's still fine. I'm down to click Icy Wind here, drop their speed and Spore. Even if you outspeed the Brute Bonnet, you shouldn't have a way to one-shot it right now without... Okay, let's Icy Wind first. Let's see if this connects. Nice. I'm going for this because, yeah, if Dondozo isn't exactly super speedy, Brute Bonnet might just outspeed and get the Spore off, and yeah, that's exactly the case here. Cool. Beautiful. So now we can kind of just brute force through it, right? Like I can just go for Freeze Dry plus Bullet Seed, and with them being leftovers rather than the... Yeah, leftovers rather than the Chesto Rest variant, we're good. So Freeze Dry, Bullet Seed. I wonder if this just KOs if we get max hits on Bullet Seed. Let's see. Okay, Bullet Seed number 1. Nah, it looks like it'll survive with a Sliver. But it's fine. They can't KO me in return. Another Bullet Seed will just KO them. 3 hits. Ah, it's going to just fall short even if we get 5, I think. Yeah, but we end up getting 4 anyway. Okay. They do manage to wake up. They will get an Earthquake off, but with the speed advantage now, we should be good. That's why I wanted to get that Icy Wind off. And yeah, Brute Bonnet barely takes any damage, even from a +2 Earthquake. Beautiful. And then it's going to be a 2v1 with Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri can't beat the combination of Baxcalibur and Brute Bonnet, so we should be good. I honestly think turn 1 kind of just won me this game. Like, my opponent committed their Tera, didn't get a knockout onto either slot, and didn't click Icy Wind, so I didn't have to deal with speed ties, actually, which is the scariest thing about the bundle versus bundle mirror. Glyph Rush. Spore. Yeah, the thing is, the Tatsugiri can't win 1v2 against Bonnet and Baxcalibur, I think. Let's see if Dondozo goes for a Protect. Wouldn't really make that much of a difference. I'll just put you to sleep anyway. I could just go for Bullet Seed, honestly, instead of Sporing. Yeah, so they end up protecting. It's fine. Makes sense for Leftovers recovery. I really don't think that's going to save them, though, honestly. Okay. A little bit more recovery, sure. I wonder if Glaive Rush just gets the KO. Probably not, right? I'm fine clicking Bullet Seed here. We don't really need to put them to sleep. Yeah, it actually just falls short. I think technically it might be a little bit more optimal to click Spore there. Because then, like, now Tatsugiri does theoretically get an attack off, but I don't think you ever win the 2v1 here. Which is why I'm willing to accelerate the battle, because I can just click Glaive Rush into you, Spore into you. And, like, even if you Draco one-shot Baxcalibur, then Tatsugiri's put to sleep, and then Bullet Seed just wins. So, yeah. There's Draco. I wonder if this KOs with the Glaive Rush. Yeah, it does. But now you're at -2 special attack, and I put you to sleep. There we go. Now I just click Bullet Seed. So I always felt really confident about this endgame. Like, Dondozo is interesting, right? Sometimes you want, like, really clear answers to it, as in, like, you want Haze, Halifin, or Murkrow, for example. But sometimes one of the strategies you can use to beat it is just, like, get your opponent to commit their Tera and then have a lot of super effective damage into Dondozo. Brute Bonnet in particular here is an excellent pick into Dondozo, because even Tera, like, it can't do that much damage to us and we pressure with Spore. So, Bullet Seed hit number 1, number 2. Even if we just get 4 hits, all we have to do is click Sucker Punch to get around a potential critical hit. 4. Cool. And now we just end the game with Sucker Punch. Nice job, Brute Bonnet. Well done. I think, yeah, there was the debate of whether or not I wanted to bring Baxcalibur or Great Tusk, but I think if you look at my opponent's team, Baxcalibur just looked really solid into a lot of Pokemon, and even though in this game, like, yeah, I didn't get the knockout onto Dondozo, like, I wanted to hedge for it being Dragon Dondozo, because then Brute Bonnet doesn't do much damage, and then, like, Baxcalibur and Flutter Mane have much better damage output into it, so that was kind of the logic there, but overall, I think the game was very dictated by turn 1, right? Like, I had immediate speed control. My opponent didn't click Icy Wind. They went for Freeze Dry instead. They split their damage. And then they really had no way around. I think, like, they could have probably considered, like, protecting and switching into Dozo, then getting Tatsugiri out the next turn so that you don't just lose both Pokemon. Because I feel like by conceding both the Bundo and the Flutter Mane, the game just became a lot easier for me. But Booster Iron Bundle with that speed control is so valuable, and getting that Icy Wind off made things really easy. Not only against the Flutter plus the Bundle combo, but as well as Dondozo in the back. Whoa. Okay, Hatterene, Inity, Armouge, Arboliva, Torkoal, Copperajah. What? Okay. It might be a Flutter Tusk lead again. Flutter Tusk. Brute Bonnet, Baxcalibur. I mean, it's hard Trick Room, right? So let's think about it, right? Against hard Trick Room, what am I really going to do? I can Ice Spinner to get rid of terrain. It could be Brute Bonnet lead instead, actually. I think that's another possibility. If I'm my opponent, I'm always leading Inity Armouge or Indy plus Torkoal. Oh, sorry, not Torkoal. Yeah, I'm too... Still remembering Knoxville Regional Finals too much. Indy Armouge or Indy Hatterene. I can't deny Trick Room guaranteed. Oh, you know what it could be? It could be Tusk Bonnet. Bax Flutter. I'm gonna try this out. I don't know if this is, like, definitively gonna work, but my logic was with this. I can go with I was thinking Ground Tera, Headlong Rush into Inity, and then Bullet Seed into Hatterene. I guess the question is then, I mean, does Hatterene survive that? They go with Inity Armouge, so So it's probably... Man, do I fire Tera on turn 1? Also, no Psychic Seed, so this might be sashed. Ugh. Yeah, this is tricky. If I were them, I would expect Grass Tera here. Then did they just Trick Room? I went for Ice Spinner Protect on turn 1. I don't know. Okay, they didn't Tera either. Protect then? No, they just went for Follow Me. That's actually not too bad of an outcome because I get rid of your terrain. And I deny you a free switch in. So if anything, actually, I would say that's pretty ideal. Because now what I can do is, with Focus Sash, I can just Bullet Seed into Indity and then Headlong Rush into Armor Rouge. Or just Protect here and Spore. Okay, I actually really... So basically, here's the thing, right? Trick Room is set up right now. My opponent has a lot of strong sweepers in the back. So what I want to do right now is actually play a little bit defensively and deny them free switch-ins. So I'm thinking I Protect here, Grass Tera, or sorry, Fire Tera, so that Armor Cannon doesn't do that much to me, and then just Spore into the Indity slot. The idea... Okay, this also... Unless it's Arboliva coming out. Is that it? It might be Torkoal. Okay, nice. Beautiful. And so the idea behind this positioning is now Torkoal should fall asleep, and then the next turn I pressure Headlong Rush onto the Armor Rouge slot. This also activates Photosynthesis on both Pokemon. So I'll take the attack boosts. Thank you very much. They're going to go for a Tera. Grass Tera here makes sense. If it's Grass Tera, what do I want to do next turn? This also confirms Armor Rouge outspeeds me under Trick Room. With this, the next turn I can go for Sucker Punch plus Ice Spinner onto the Armor Rouge slot. But I also think it can be argued that I should just go for Headlong Rush onto Torkoal since I have that attack boost on Great Tusk right now. But yeah, basically, like, this is one of the things that you can do when you play against Trick Room. It basically, like, deny free setup. Or sorry, not setup. Deny, like, them of fully taking advantage of Trick Room by forcing them to make switches and, like... Bonnet with Spore here is just really good. Oh, it's actually Heat Wave. Okay. Works for me. The one thing I was worried about there was safety goggles on Indity, but with Torkoal coming out now, it's looking pretty good. Cool. So, I think the debate here... My Torkoal matchup isn't amazing. So... One play is to simply Sucker Armor Rouge, Headlong Rush Torkoal. I could also just Ice Spinner here and Sucker Punch and try to just eliminate Armor Rouge because Torkoal has to take a guaranteed turn of sleep right now. It's just so tempting to try to get like a free knockout onto Torkoal while I have it. Just 3 turns of Trick Room. I'm down to take it. Headlong Rush into you. Sucker Punch into you. Okay, Torkoal does switch. But it could be NDD coming out, right? Yep, that makes sense. That's relatively okay. I think Headlong Rush should get the knockout onto NDD. Torkoal is basically still useless and doesn't get to burn a sleep turn. It does mean I fail Sucker Punch, though, which is a little unfortunate. And they will get Expanding Force off. Yeah, good play. Ugh, it's a lot of damage. It's pretty scary. I think Ice Spinner Bullet Seed was another play to consider. That would have just knocked out the Armor Rouge, but I would have taken a lot of damage. Like, now I can just double Protect. Torkoal's completely useless, so the big question is what their final Pokemon is. It's going to be a really close finish, I think. Hatterene. Hatterene. 2 turns of Trick Room. Can obviously double Protect this turn. Because basically, I'm thinking I'll just be in a situation where I can spec Shadow Ball this and then Icicle Crash this if I just double protect right now. Part of the debate is whether or not I want to consider switching out, but I don't think it's worth conserving either of these, quite truthfully. I think what we have in the back is more valuable, so I'm happy to just double protect this turn. They could make the double Trick Room play right now. That's my one fear. That would actually be an incredible play to make. I would do it if I were in their shoes. Okay, thank goodness. And now we just sacrifice both Pokemon. I'm very intentionally not going to try to go for double protects here because I want to make sure they don't just click Trick Room with both Pokemon. But yeah, expanding Dazzling, get a double KO. I get a free switch into Specs Flutter plus the Baxcalibur, and I'll go for Shadow Ball plus Icicle Crash. Last turn of Trick Room now. Yeah, the one thing we want to avoid is both Pokemon clicking Trick Room. I will go for Ice Spinner. Actually, it's more important to get damage on a Hatterene. Just going to double up onto it. So, for those that don't know, by the way, the idea behind double Trick Room is you click Trick Room with both Pokemon right when Trick Room's about to expire, so one Pokemon reverses it and the other resets it, and then you have a full set of Trick Room turns once again. So it's a pretty risky play, obviously, because if your opponent just ends up attacking you and knocks out one Pokemon, you just end up reversing Trick Room. And so you have to normally have like a lot of confidence when you're going for it, but it's a really cool play you can make specifically. Life Orb Hatterene is actually one of the best things that we could have seen here, in my opinion. Okay, cool. Trick Room expires. And now I get my 2 free switch-ins. Cool, cool. And actually, we get the Photosynthesis as well, which is really nice. My one fear is that Armarouge survives Icicle Crash. Because the play right now is to just Icicle Crash and Shadow Ball. I'll go for it. Hatterene's revealed Dazzling. I mean, Dazzling, Psychic, Trick Room, Protect is normally what you want to run. But could run Mystical Fire over Protect to have a better Golden Goal matchup. Oh, no Protector is huge. Okay. Because I think now it means even if Armarouge survives or I miss Icicle Crash, we're still in pretty good shape. Because Torkoal guaranteed has to take a turn to sleep. But we don't miss. Nice. Was that Sashed? Sashed Armarouge. Oh, it's weak. What? What? It lives on 1 and has weakness policy. I mean, I think I lose now. I do have the Assault Vest on the Baxcalibur. No way. Wow. Man, what a way to lose. How defensive do you have to be to survive that? I'm going to do the calcs after this game. That is nuts. That is absolutely... Wow, what? Okay, really cool. Not cool for me. And unfortunately, it's the last turn of Psychic Terrain. I mean, if Psychic Terrain expired, I would just Ice Shard you. Holy moly. Okay. I'm going to click Earthquake here. And Shadow Ball. Oh, it actually may have been better to Shadow into... Okay, they end up clicking Expanding Force, though. Cool. So, back should survive with Assault Vest. It comes down to sleep turns against Torkoal. That's what it boils down to. Like, if Torkoal gets a 1-turn Wake, I lose. Otherwise, I win with Earthquake. So the odds are in my favor right now, because Torkoal is only taking 1 sleep turn right now. If I end up losing to Armarouge surviving on 1 HP, plus Torkoal surviving, or getting a 1-turn Wake, it's fine. Like, I don't mind that. I'm fairly content with how I played this. Yeah, 3 turns of Trick Room. I can't protect. I mean, it just comes down to Earthquake. No reason to click anything else. What a tense moment. Oh, man. I think the one turn I could have played better was when Indy switched in and then Armarouge clicked Expanding Force. But yeah, just boils down to whether or not Torkoal wakes up. And Torkoal stays asleep. Whew. Yeah, I mean, it's a 2/3 chance for us to win in this game. Earthquake now, single target, KO's Torkoal. Man, what a battle. I want to pull up the damage calc against Armarouge because I cannot believe it survived that Icicle Crash. Like, I really want to know how much investment you need. So, let's do the damage calc here because I have no idea. Wow, so looking at this damage calc, it is a 50-50 as to whether or not you can one-shot max HP Armarouge, which honestly is kind of surprising to me, like, given how strong Baxcalibur's attack is, and, like, Armarouge's defenses aren't, like, amazing. Yeah, I would not have guessed this. I would have thought they had a lot of defense investment as well, but turns out even if you are just max HP, you have a 50% chance of surviving that, which is, I think, a really interesting damage count to see overall. But yeah, in the end, it was fine because we had that Assault Vest. It was mainly that weakness policy, right? Because, like, without weakness policy, then you can't KO both of my Pokemon, right? Like, you can only either, and then, like, with Earthquake on Baxcalibur, that's a super strong attack into both of their Pokemon. So without the policy, it's like you're kind of forced to Armor Cannon, essentially, into the Flutter Mane, try to KO that with the Sun Up. But then Baxcalibur doesn't end up taking any damage. I get the Earthquake off, and then it's a 1v1. I don't think Torkoal can ever win after taking, 60% of its health there. So it was mainly the surprise of Armarouge hanging on one, also having weakness policy as well, which made things so much scarier. And then me also being one turn away from stalling out that Psychic Terrain, but not having Protect on either Pokemon to do so. But what a battle there. And yeah, I think that is going to conclude our episode here. And so this is just an incredibly powerful team. Really enjoyed piloting and using it. So thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, would really appreciate if you consider leaving a like on the video or subscribing. Really helps out a ton. And I'll see you all next time. All right. Peace.